I'd like to extend my congratulations to our town manager, Anthony Wilson, who has just received his Maine Municipal Association town manager credentials. That's a 3-year project, hundreds of hours of studying and community service, and one of 26 out of possibly 200 town managers in Maine who has received this. So thank you for your service, Anthony, and congratulations. Right. And one other point before we start tonight's meeting. I've been asked to limit comments to 3 minutes. I was on the receiving end of that. I didn't like that. I want everybody to speak freely and take as long as you need to make your point. However, that last part of that statement was what we needed to say. I don't want people to just keep reiterating their point. Make your point, make your case, as they say in court, and let's get on with it. Anthony?
Yeah, Anthony.
Andy.
Andy, that's better.
Isn't that your legal name?
No, Andy.
Okay.
Andy. Okay. I'm supposed to be reminded to use my microphone. At the beginning of the of this committee commission, we agreed to abide by the rules that the town council uses. Okay, which are public comment before the meeting on any subject. Okay, and then public comment at the end of the meeting on any subject. All right, and no repeat comments. So in other words, if someone comments at the beginning of the meeting, they can't get up twice. They get one shot. Okay. And generally 3 minutes. So I think as chair, you have some leeway, but you know, it's different. Like with Mike Levy, Mr. Levy has a presentation that's been scheduled.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least a 10 or 15-minute presentation.
Whatever he plans, but he has a scheduled presentation. It's not really a public comment thing. Okay, more of an agenda item. But we do have to abide by what we agreed on in the first place. And if someone has a 4 minutes, you know, speech to give, you have some discretion, but not the same person coming up twice, you know, and.
I think I've addressed that.
And no.
Let's not beat the
Yep,
point to
and
death.
no,
Let's make the
I'm
point
not,
and move
I'm not, and no comments during, while we're deliberating, there's no line over there waiting to talk. They have to wait till after the meeting. It's too late. Okay, we'll be here all night. We've been known to be here all night.
All right. Well, with that, Anthony Levy, the floor is all yours, sir. Levy. So did I say, oh, I meant to say attorney. I got Anthony stuck on my mind.
Wonder why.
Well, hello, everybody. My name's Mike Levy. I tried to individually introduce myself to each of you before the meeting. I'll tell you just real quick about me. I've been a resident of Winthrop. I'm in my 52nd year living here. I practiced law here in Winthrop on Main Street for 45 years. I've been on the Winthrop School Board, the Winthrop Recreation Committee. I'm presently on the Cemetery Committee. I'm presently an election volunteer. I assist the library with candidate forums, and I'm interested in Winthrop having good government. And I think it's a terrific thing that you people are spending your time and your effort coming here to help write, or at least look at drafting a good set of rules for the town of Winthrop to govern itself. I'm also a member of the League of Women Voters. And for the last 3 years, I was on a study committee studying election methods and looking at the strengths and weaknesses of various election methods. And we wrote a report about a topic called proportional ranked choice voting. Now, I'm aware of the fact that there are pluses and minuses about people's feelings about ranked choice voting. So I'll just tell you that I was on this committee. I was part of the study about this subject. Ultimately, once I understood it, I became a person who thinks it's a very good idea. And I thought I'd introduce this to you as people who are writing a charter or proposing a charter to see what you think about the election method that we have in Winthrop, whether you think it's sufficient, and whether you think you might want to consider an alternate. So that's my purpose here tonight. I promise you that I won't get, what do they say, get into the weeds. If this isn't a subject that may be of interest to you, I can help us all learn together about it. I can bring resources from the League of Women Voters, which has a lot of information about it. And I will tell you that you can't learn about it in one short meeting. Proportional ranked choice voting is a little bit on the complicated side. Before tonight's meeting, I gave you a hypothetical to look at. It'll just help us understand things in general. And I just wanted you to assume that there is an issue in town which is a significant issue that has some people in favor of it and some people against it. And so I said to myself, well, let's use the mooring ordinance, which was a highly talked about subject in the not too distant past. And let's pretend that 65% of the voters oppose having a mooring ordinance and that 35% of the voters are in favor of a mooring ordinance. This is a hypothetical. And assume that a town council's election is coming up at which 3 positions are going to be elected. And assume that there's 6 candidates for the 3 positions. 3 are in favor of a mooring ordinance, 3 against. So we have a contested election for 3 positions on the town council. And we have in the town, it appears that there's about 65% of the people who oppose the ordinance and 35% of the people who are for the ordinance. So everybody kind of get the hypothetical I'm talking about here. So I'll stop and talk about proportional representation for a minute, and then we'll get back to the hypothetical. Proportional representation, pardon me, is a principle that in the governing body, there should be representation which is proportional to the feelings of the community. So that if 65% of the community is opposed to a mooring ordinance, 65% of the council should be people of similar thought. 35% should be people of the other side of it. This means that governance that comes from an elected body reflects the voting population. And if you have that, then you have a 35% minority at the table, and they're going to lose when it comes time to vote. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't be there. They should be there because when we hear the minority and the minority hears the majority, good conversation takes place, new ideas can come out, possibilities of compromise might occur. It's good government. That's at least my view of it. Proportional representation is not a new idea. John Adams was talking about it at the time we wrote the Constitution. This is nothing new. So let's now talk about the hypothetical. In Winthrop, when you see that ballot, it's going to say, vote for 3. So we got 65% opposed to the mooring ordinance. And they're going to vote for the 3 candidates who are opposed to the mooring ordinance. 35% are going to vote for the 3 candidates who are in favor of the mooring ordinance. And what's going to be the representation on the town council? 100% the council people who oppose the mooring ordinance. It is not representation. It is not proportion. And that's what we have. I think, and Anthony can correct me if I'm wrong, this idea that I'm talking about applies to multi-member elections where we're electing several people for positions in one election. I think we have multi-member boards in Winthrop on your town council, on your school committee, library trustees. So that's the elections I'm talking about here. When the majority is elected to 100%, the term that election scholars use, sorry, is called majority capture. The majority has captured 100% of the seats. Does this happen? And the answer is yes. I'll give a couple of examples from Derry and Nashua, New Hampshire. Nashua, New Hampshire sends 27 people to its state legislature. They elect 20, they have 27 people from that go to the large. 44% of the voters in Nashua are Republicans. They used in Nashua the same kind of system that we use here, vote for X amount of people. The result of that vote is all 27 seats went to the Democrats. Am I saying that right? Yes, all 27 seats went to the Democrats, 0 Republicans, despite the fact that they were 44% of the voters. That same year in Derry, New Hampshire, there's a 10-member city council. 45% of the voters were Democrat. Same kind of election process. All 10 seats, I'm sorry, my typing is wrong here. 45% of the voters were Republican. It was the same kind of election. All 10 seats went to the Democrats, 0 for Republicans. Once again, you have majority capture. I think if I told these examples correctly, one, the Democrats captured the majority. The other, the Republicans captured 100% of the seats. So this is nonpartisan. I'm not talking about my side versus your side, I'm talking about proportional representation. In addition to the fact that our current election method might run that risk that we don't have proportional representation, if you have majority capture and all the seats are one point of view, the voters who are in the significant minority, they feel disenfranchised. I'm 35% of this community and I don't have one seat up there. And what can happen is that I lose interest in voting and I lose interest in participating in civic events because I'm not even at the table. So, so now we're at proportional ranked choice voting. It's an option. In proportional ranked choice voting, voter gets a ballot that looks just like the ranked choice voting ballot that we have when we vote for federal officials here in Winthrop. It gives the name of the candidates and it says, choose the ones you want in order of preference. Choose your first favorite, choose your second favorite, choose your third favorite, and stop whenever you want. If there's 6 people running, like the hypothetical I've given you, if there's 6 people running, vote for 6, choose 1 through 6. And you say to yourself, oh my God, I'm going to run out of preferences when I get to 3. You can stop. So that's the way that it works. That's the way that the ballot looks. And you vote, and that's called ranked choice voting. You're ranking the candidates, and that's how you're voting for them. Then the results of this as you can imagine, are pretty complicated. I vote for my favorite, and Dick Garrett votes for his favorite, and they happen to be the same candidate. But my second choice might be different than Dick's second choice. My third choice might be the same as Dick's third choice. So keeping track of all this is a big job. And when a community has proportional ranked choice voting, it needs software to keep track of every voter and not by name, by number, how many ballots for candidate number one, and how many of those ballots had this person as choice number two. And it's becomes a big complicated spreadsheet. It's completely doable because we have that technology. So we keep track of it. Then the next thing that happens is that all this data is then analyzed and the votes are allocated according to the proportional ranked choice voting rules. And what you end up with is you end up with the people who win the election. And with proportional ranked choice voting, in the hypothetical I've given you here, there is a reasonable likelihood that you will elect two people who are opposed to the mooring ordinance and one person who's in favor of it. And so you get 66 2/3 and 33 1/3, and you have a result which reflects the views of the voter. The results at the table are proportional, and the benefits of that are what I've previously mentioned. How this works is I can't do it in 5 minutes. I can't do it in 10 minutes. It's something that requires a little bit of time and a little bit of effort. If the general idea is of interest, I'm happy to have further communications with you. I can tell you, I may be going a little too far with this, but I'll tell you. The first thing that happens in a ranked choice voting tally is that a threshold is determined. How many votes does a candidate have to get in order to be elected? In our hypothetical, it's 26. If any of these candidates gets 26, they're elected. Now, there's a formula that gets to that 26. This is math. But if you think about it, if I get 26 votes and there's 3 people being elected, I can't lose just by the numbers. I have won. I may come in third, but I have won. Think of it this way. 3 times 26 is 72? I think so. Okay, so thank you. If there's 100 voters, well, by the way, that's part of this hypothetical. There's 100 voters. If 3 times 26 is 72, it's 73, 6s or 8, it's 78. There's 22 votes left. Every person with 26 votes has won and cannot lose. So there's your threshold. You've got to get enough votes to justify being elected. And the threshold means you cannot lose. So the computer analyzes and says how many votes each candidate gets. If a candidate gets 26 or more, that candidate has won. The next thing that happens with proportional ranked choice voting is called the surplus transfer. Each of us has a vote, and we want our vote to go as far as it can. So if a candidate gets 35 votes and only needs 26, there's a 9-vote surplus. That surplus is taken from that winner and is given to my second choice. Everybody that voted for the person that got 35, they now get their fair share allocated to their second choice. So my vote goes much further than just my first preference. Now we're ranking candidates and voting for ranked choice voting. And so the first candidate has 26. The second candidate has now had their first rank, their first elected amount, and they're going to get some of the surplus to increase them as they work towards maybe they're going to get 26 also. And then the third element of this ranked choice voting formula is called the elimination. If in this election, nobody reaches 26, because we get 6 candidates, and nobody reaches 26 votes, it's just like the other ranked choice voting that we use. Person with the lowest amount is eliminated, and their vote, the people that voted for that person as first choice, as those votes go to their second choice. And that allows us to see the candidates moving towards the threshold. When this formula is used, there is a reasonable probability that a sizable minority will be elected, and we will not have majority capture of all the seats. So that's what I have to offer you. I'd like you to consider it. I'd like you to think about whether that's good government or not, and whether it's something that we might want to consider as part of a charter, because you guys are writing a new constitution for Winthrop. If you have enough interest to continue forward, hope we can schedule some times together that we can bring, you can see it happen in action rather than this little very broad presentation, and you can learn more about its strengths and its weaknesses. It's not perfect. It's not going to always work, but it is, as far as I can determine, the best we can do to try to achieve proportional representation. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Anybody on the commission?
Reminder, we got a notice online that people online are having trouble hearing. So if everyone can please speak directly into their microphones.
Certainly.
I'd like to see if we could meet with Mike at some point and further this conversation.
Anybody else on the commission have?
I would just like to remind everyone that the entire charter is going to be voted by citizens. And if there's something that someone doesn't like, the charter won't be admitted. So this seems more like an individual vote as opposed to adding to the charter right now. Like we should present it as an individual thing to potentially be added that the citizens can vote on. That way they have way more time to learn from you. You can have multiple meetings, but us adding it to the commission, the charter commission that we're doing right now, it kind of like what Congress does. They put a bunch of little bills into one big bill and it's like, no, you should vote individually for each one.
I'm not sure that I follow you, but the point in me making a presentation tonight is that it feels like this is the home for this idea, that you're writing a charter, and as part of the charter, there are election methods, and how we vote on the things that we vote on and the positions we vote on might be something that needs to be in a charter. So that's my purpose here. If there's some way that things should be considered separately, I'm willing to present or willing to work with the council with respect to that as well.
I've got a couple comments, Mike, if you'll allow me. It's complex for me. I can't imagine what it's going to be like for the voters to step in and make all kinds of check marks and everything else. The counting, relying on a computer to count, no different than today's machine. However, I think it adds a level of complexity for small local elections that we might not be ready for. I think there's probably a couple towns in Maine that are doing this.
Portland is doing it. South Portland is doing it. It's being considered, I believe, in Scarborough. And I'm not aware of other towns. I will tell you that the experts say that if this is thought of as a good idea, before it's implemented, there needs to be a significant effort of community education. People do need to understand this and feel comfortable with it. Based upon what you heard tonight, I would never in a million years ask people to vote. We have to, and it's not just the members of the charter committee or the members of the town council. It is the community. And so there needs to be that kind of effort made in order to make sure that the community is ready for it.
And I guess that gets back to Shay's point where this is almost a pull away item from the charter. This is, something that comes up in a year or two in an election that the voters approve to go with this type of voting. Again, to me, the complexity is really going to be a drawback. I think it's going to be discouraging for some of the folks who are looking at this and going, oh my God, now what, and again, we're not a young community. And I'm not disparaging anybody. I'm a member of that group. It does get confusing. But back to your original example, you said 65% of the community is in favor and 35% are against. Do you poll the community before the actual election to get those numbers?
No, actually, the answer, I appreciate what you say, and no, you don't. Well, maybe people poll. I mean, and whenever you have a big controversy about an issue, there can be pollsters around. But that number comes from just the general idea is you can get a sense in your community as to, how much strength there is to this point of view and how much strength there is to that point of view. But it's not a precise thing.
Yeah. So there's room.
That's fair.
Yeah. And again, same with the voting, right? I mean, if you're figuring 35% of the voters are for or against, could be 10%.
That is right.
It's just loud minority.
Right. And of course, when the voter votes, that's when you really know what the sense of the community is.
Exactly.
If 90% of the voters vote for the people who are in favor of the mooring ordinance, despite the fact that you thought the odds were different or the percentages were different, the true test of what the community wants is in the votes. And what proportional ranked choice voting does is it says, once that's done, if there's a significant minority position, it gets represented on the council.
But it doesn't mean the councilman that or woman that's elected is going to vote that way.
That's also true. That's also true. I guess it's what they promised during the campaign. And I guess if you're going to say, we all know what it means about campaign promises, I hear what you say.
Right. Any further questions? Any further comments?
I'm very interested in knowing more, but I'd really like to look at this further.
I'd be happy to help if you wish. Let me know and we'll do it. Thank you very much for your time. I know this is something that we don't think about every day, but I am really in favor of good and fair government. I think that's really, really important. And the most important place where it takes place is in your local community. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for being here tonight. We really do appreciate it.
I would like to add one thing.
Richard, go ahead.
We are the charter committee. We are setting rules of the town. I think it's this committee that needs to do this work for the town. Is no different than anything else that we're doing. I think it's up to us to be able to offer this. Townspeople want it, they'll vote for it. If they don't, they won't vote for the charter. But I think it's our job to have Mike come back and talk some more about this and give us a more education on how this works.
Other comments from? Next steps then? Anybody would like to meet next week? Another public meeting? It has to be a public meeting, can't be a private meeting, I don't believe.
Discussing.
Which time would you need, Attorney Levy?
Worry, Mike? We meet sometime in February, let Mike get back to us and pick a date, hear him out.
Thank you.
If it's even a consideration, if you give me a date, I'll try to get you information in advance.
We'll stay right there. Bruce?
I think that maybe if you want to discuss it further, and 6 years in municipal government, I was never asked if I was a Republican or a Democrat. So I think that has no relevancy here, except in a national or state gubernatorial or elected official. I think that would be encumbersome, but I'm always willing to listen. And if he wants to schedule time with you at our next meeting that we convey, be happy to give him the floor for 15 minutes.
Well, I think Attorney Levy is thinking about a group of people. Is that correct? Not just yourself?
I do not know. It's likely to be me plus one other person. A worthwhile discussion of this to develop some understanding is not a 15-minute conversation, I'm sorry to say.
Well, okay.
It's a complicated subject from what I've researched.
It took me quite a while to figure it out. And every time I work with a hypothetical, I get confused.
Andy?
I don't mind taking the time that's required to understand. The one thing that does concern me is something I think Bruce brought up. I've been familiar with the activities of the town council and the town government since around 86, when I started getting involved. And the one really good thing that I am proud of and pleased with is that our town, as far as local politics, has never really divided itself between Democrats and Republicans. Everybody has always sat here at this table or another table and thought about what's in the best interest of the town. Okay, and only concern with this ranked choice idea. Debating subjects over the mooring ordinance or whatever else comes up. That's all well and good, but I don't want that to put us in the position of dividing ourselves between Democrats and Republicans. We've never done that, and I'm really
And there is a potential for strategic vote. That's the part that I'm concerned about.
I think with regards to the mooring ordinance, the way that we resolved that conflict was to form an independent committee of taxpayers, shareholders here in the community, and all the town councilors, if I'm mistaken, please correct me. We all agreed that whatever the commission had decided, we would vote for the commission. And we did. It was put on a referendum. It passed. We have a mooring ordinance in place, and it resolved a lot of conflict within the community. I mean, I think that was a pretty effective way of handling it. I mean, it might be old school, and I don't have 35 or 26 or 17. You know, I'm pretty good at calculating in my head, but you lost me at the 26 and the 76 and the 72.
I'm not surprised. Whatever process makes sense, if there's an interest in discussing this issue and learning it and thinking about whether it's worthwhile for the community, I'm not particularly concerned about the process. Whatever process will allow that discussion to happen is perfectly okay with me.
Jay, did you have another comment?
So reviewing the current town charter, it doesn't mention specifically how voters should vote, and even reviewing updates at today, it doesn't say how voters should vote. Yeah, so it doesn't talk about how voters should vote. It does, you know, talk about main state titles and such. So I think, again, if this is something the town wants, I would love for it to be its own individual ballot question. I think adding it to the charter right now, I think would be very confusing to people. But again, there's no mention in what we currently have and also what we're looking to do of how the town should vote, whether it be what we're doing right now, ranked choice voting.
Right.
I think it's definitely something that the town citizens should have a chance to vote individually for if they would like that to be their form. It's not currently in our charter, so I don't know how it's decided.
I think I can help with that a little bit. And maybe our town manager will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe if a community does not state an election method, then the election method that the state requires the community to use is the election method we're now using. So we do have it by virtue of our silence, if you see what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And so if a better, if an election method is, am I right?
To state statutes in the current charter. So we do follow to states.
The state law and the state law, I believe, describes with different words the system that we presently use. So we are doing it in accordance with our charter and in accordance with the state law. If there is a better alternate that is attractive to people in this community, then it needs to become a part of the charter at some point.
Should the state implement PRCV, then obviously with our silence, we would have to implement
Absolutely.
PRCV.
Right, that is correct.
Would, again, I don't think we're in a position to set up a commission to review this. I think this becomes a town council issue, right?
I think in the town charter, it also says that, you know, there's a process involved to present a referendum to the voters, and that's to gather 25% of the registered voters in the last gubernatorial election, which would be about 350 signatures. 375,
840.
750 signatures of registered voters. I think that if you're adamant about it, you should present that to the clerk, get a petition, get it signed, and have it put on a referendum. But to have it entered into our charter, I think it complicates things quite a bit. 840 signatures. I don't know if you're adamant about something, you want to spend 8 hours in front of Hannaford polling people or that's more power to you.
I hear you.
But we do have a process in place.
Thank you.
Well, again, thank you for your time.
Anthony, is there anybody online? I can't.
Yeah, so we have a comment online that says, if we see less voter turnout over the next couple of years, do we have to come up with a new town charter to go back to normal voting? That's the question. And I think it was rhetorical. I'm not sure if there's a good answer for that.
What he might mean is after, if we implement PRCV.
And we don't like it,
Right.
then we can repeal it.
Yeah.
Under the provisions of the charter.
All right. I think Bruce, your suggestion is a very valid suggestion. We do have a process currently in the charter to elevate this to the next level. What it would give is it would give your group, Attorney Levy, time to put together presentations and put together an education model for the residents of Winthrop. Because again, I think, if we spring this on them in a month to 2 months, there'll be a lot of confusion. And then confusion usually leads to less voters, as Tim said. If we have a hard time right here, right now, understanding the process, and I had to look at it multiple times online, and I'm still, I understand a big city like Seattle and even Portland and all that, but I think a small local community like us, where sometimes some of our elections, we get 2 of 3 candidates, we get two that sign up for 3 open positions, that tends to complicate things. So, but I think we'll be hearing from you again and we'll be seeing you again. All right? No, thank you for your time. Really do appreciate it.
It is one thing we have to keep in mind. I can recall, I think 3 town council elections and 2 school board elections where there were open seats, no one was running for it. And, the first person that signed up, got on. So you're right, we don't want to scare volunteers away. As a matter of fact, this committee here, okay, I mean, people are just not that interested. We didn't
No.
have people run, so we do need to be careful.
And-
about scaring people away.
And I do think that's been an issue, an ongoing issue in all commissions and boards and
Well, and not in elected positions, but right now we have a bunch of appointed positions that are empty. Okay, I'm literal bunch of them.
right? Moving on. All right. Item 030, discussion and consideration of Article 7 of the municipal development. This one was fairly simple to update. There were just a couple words that were changed. For the benefit of the audience that might not have received this, I guess I'd like to do a reading of it, like I did the last time, if that's okay. Article 7, Municipal Development, Section 701, Planning Board. There shall be a town planning board which shall be appointed and have powers and perform such duties as are provided by municipal ordinance and the laws of the state of Maine. The one word that was changed there was "and." Section 702, zoning ordinances. There shall be a zoning ordinance. No changes to that. Section 703, Board of Appeals. There shall be a Board of Appeals which shall be appointed and have such powers and perform such duties as are provided by municipal ordinance and the laws of the state of Maine. The key change there was the addition of the word "and." And that's Article 7. Any discussion on that one?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Article 7 for municipal development with the changes indicated as such.
I'd like to second that.
Discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimous? Excuse me. Article 8 was struck from the charter. And at the suggestion of the attorney, it was rolled over into Article 9, which is elections, nominations and elections was rolled over in that. So let me just bring that up real quick here. I shall do the reading. So for those of you who have received a paper copy or an electronic copy of this, there was a lot of strike throughs and a lot of complexity in this one. So I'm going to read from the clean version, and we'll do it one section at a time. So Section 801, the title, first of all, has been changed. I apologize here. It went from Citizens Oversight of Council Legislative Action Initiative Recall. So it's been changed to Referendums and Elections. Simplified the title. Section 801, Municipal Elections. The regular election for the choice of members of the Town Council, the Board of Education, and the Library Board of Trustees shall be held annually on the first Tuesday after the first Monday of the month.
November.
Any issues with that?
November.
What's that?
It says in November. Am I reading it wrong?
What did I say? November is what I meant.
Thank you, Anthony.
The first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. So if the first Tuesday is November 1st, then it would have to go to the next Tuesday. You all set, Andy?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
All right. Section 802, absentee ballots. Absentee ballots may be cast at all elections, and the procedure therefore shall be set out in titles 21-A and 30-A of the Maine Revised Statutes, except that the duties of the Secretary of State shall be performed by the clerk in accordance with Title 30-A. Any discussion on that one? Hearing none, we're going to move on. Section 803, petition for overrule of action of council. Excuse me. The following shall be subject to overrule by referendum vote as follows. Section 803.1, all ordinances. Section 803.2, orders or resolves authorizing bond issues and notes other than tax anticipation notes of $150,000 or more for capital improvements or capital equipment. And there was a comment here from somebody that basically said, should we go with a higher number than 150,000 on a $22 million budget? That's a small number. So anybody have any comments on that one?
Can you explain that?
Are you on, Dick?
Shall I, Mr. Chair?
So was that Anthony?
I think Mr. Garrett was asking for some
Yep.
explanation.
Yeah,
Did I
if you-
hear that correctly, Mr. Garrett?
Yeah, if you could.
Okay, so keep in mind that this charter was written in the 1970s. So back then, in the whole scheme of things, $150,000 was probably a lot of money in the town's budget. And I'm glad we have a banker here with us and a municipal banker to boot. So we would, of course, never issue a bond for $150,000. I mean, that's way too low. And so that's my comment, is that I think we should consider some figure other than $150,000. It also says note. So I'm interested, Mr. Colpitts, in your opinion, would a lease finance program be considered a note?
Yeah, I suppose it depends on what council you talk to. It very well could be from some of the councils that I've talked to. A lease is kind of in that same, go through the same process. The difference is what's the collateral and who holds it and who owns it. I don't see a scenario where you wouldn't want to have this. I don't think I think the number is kind of arbitrary, to be honest with you. I can't see a scenario where the council votes on a bond and you wouldn't want a referendum that could overturn that, if that makes sense. I don't know if the number is meaningful here. In other words,
So are you questioning the need for the provision at all?
well, no, I think it's fine to have the provision. I just don't think the number needs to be any larger. I think you should be able to question
Okay.
any referendum that comes up for a bond should be, you don't want to give authority to the council to say, okay, well, this is only 200,000. It's less than the 500,000 that we have written down on the council charter. So we don't need to question anymore. There's no referendum that can stop it. So that's the only reason why I say it, to me, it doesn't matter. I think you should have the ability to do it. 150 is probably the smallest I've never seen a bond.
Yeah.
It's younger than a lot of people, 150 is pretty damn low. So.
Yeah. And as I said, we would never bond $150,000. Of course, we would have notes in excess or, somewhere in the
Yeah.
neighborhood of $150,000 or less for purchasing something like a police cruiser,
Correct.
for instance.
That could be the situation, Anthony. There are some folks who bond for police cruisers and fire trucks. It's very rare, but there is that scenario where that happens. So you might want to just keep it on 150 and just be good with it.
Okay. And just so everyone's clear, a couple different times there, Mr. Colpitts used the word counsel, and at times I think he was referring to legal
Yes.
counsel versus the town.
With an L, yeah, EL, not IL, yeah, exactly.
All right, so Anthony, hang on a second, right? So this says a petition to overrule the action of the council. So if the council votes to appropriate $200,000 for software update,
Well,
that would fall under this. The
Well,
petition could
only
be-
if those dollars were being borrowed. And so this doesn't speak to your operating budget. This speaks to your capital budget.
All right,
And so anything that you might be borrowing and financing then would be subject to this provision.
of 150,000.
Anything over 150,000.
But we want to leave that in the charter, right? there.
I have great respect for Mr. Colpitt's opinion. So if he says that number is good, I'm perfectly fine.
I don't see a problem with that. I can't see a scenario where you have asked the council to bond something that is insignificant enough where you wouldn't want the citizens to have that ability. Yeah.
Fair enough. Does that answer your question, Mr. Garrett?
Yeah.
We're all set for that one? All right, continue. Petition procedures applicable to this section shall be the same as those set forth in section 807.1, except that all references therein to petitioners shall, for the purpose of this section, be deemed to refer to the petitioners committee. If within 20 days after enactment of any such ordinance, order, or resolve, a petition requesting its reference to referendum vote is signed by not less than 25% of the number of registered voters who voted in the last gubernatorial election is filed with the town clerk, the council shall call a public hearing to be held within 30 days from the date of the filing of such petition with the town clerk, and shall within 14 days after said public hearing call a special town election for the purpose of submitting to a referendum vote the question of adopting such ordinance, order, or resolved. That's a 105-word sentence, by the way, and if anybody was counting.
Yeah.
25% of the number of voters that voted in the last gubernatorial election is, as we mentioned earlier, 840.
That's, I think we should revise that to 10%.
Which would be 350? Is that,
336. I mean, it's going to be a reach for anybody to get anything resolved to collect 800 signatures.
in 20 days?
I mean, it's crazy. So I think it should be more realistic and there should be a limit, but I think that limit should be 10% as opposed to 25, in all fairness.
I agree.
All right, is this something that needs a motion to change that number? I think 10% we're good, right? I think we're all in agreement. Hearing none, we'll strike the 25% and reduce that to 10%. Again, reminder, that's about 350 votes in the last election. And it's not an easy feat. Somebody can get mad at somebody, but then you've got to convince 350 registered voters to see it your way. And sometimes there are towns, as we hear throughout Maine, that does happen where the town's up in arms. So let me continue with the next sentence. The next sentence is more.
Can you speak into the mic?
Pending action by the voters of the town for referred ordinance, order, or resolve shall be suspended from going into operation until it has received the vote of the majority of the voters voting on the said question. So my question to that is, when does it get paused? In other words, you vote for it, the town has 20, or the residents of the town have 20 days to come up with the signatures. In the meantime, when does the ordinance, let's use an ordinance, when does the ordinance get paused? Does it pause after you receive the 350 registered voters, or does it get paused upon the initiation of the petition? There's a lot of damage can occur in 30, 60 days.
So one more time, say that once
So-
again.
So the town council votes an ordinance in. Under our current system, I think it goes into effect right away. 30 days, 30 days. All right. I was thinking of the quarry thing that was retroactive. So you get, so of those 30 days, you've got 20 days to come up with the number of signatures.
Correct.
So if you come up with that number of signatures, when does the ordinance get paused, or it actually never goes into effect? Is that correct?
Keep in mind that with the 10% of vote, if you get 10% of the voters and it's filed within that time period, it's still going to an election. So the time frame isn't really crucial. It's not going to stop that ordinance. It's going to go to a vote for the full town to determine if they want to not have that ordinance or not.
Right. So I counted 64 days from the time the council votes for the ordinance.
Yep.
30 days later, it goes into effect, and then 34 days later, it goes to a vote. Right? If I'm reading this right here, you get 20, 30, and 14.
In order to call for a special election.
So we call for a
We
special,
need time to prepare for that election as well, but
yeah, so it could
yes,
go longer.
it could go longer. It likely will because we'll have to prepare
Yeah.
absentee ballots for it.
So when does the ordinance get paused?
That's a good,
Because again,
Good point.
it shouldn't go into effect if we have an active petition going out through town,
Why
right?
shouldn't it go into effect, though?
Because a lot of damage can be done if it's if it's something that's going to cost a lot of land loss, a lot of whatever loss, right?
But I think it was still a legally approved ordinance by the town council, which is then now into effect. And so I understand it's not something that a lot of people would want and you put on a petition, but I don't think it's right to just put it on pause because you have a petition. I think it's still a rightful ordinance, which will be fixed.
But this addresses the pause, this
well,
current
let's say
charter.
that it's suspended until it has received a vote of the majority of the voters. So
There you
So
go.
my question, Matt, was when is the pause occurring?
I would, of course, our attorney's going to be here at the next meeting. And I think this might be a good question to pose to him. But what I would say is that as soon as you've got the petition with the 10% votes that it's been certified by the clerk, that's when you would cease the enforcement of the ordinance.
But according to what I just heard, it's a legal ordinance by the council that should be kept into effect until it's repealed by the voters.
Well, no, that's not what this says. So read that again, Deb.
Until you get the signatures, right? So it's a legal ordinance until you get the signatures.
Well, technically, it's legal for 20 days.
But it's not in
But
effect
it's
for
not
30 days.
It's not enforced for 30 days. So within that
Oh.
30-day window, you've got 20 days to collect the signatures. If within those 20 days, you collect the signatures, then everything is put on hold until the election is held.
All right.
So does that include?
Hang on, Richard. Richard, you had something?
Yeah, a couple of questions. I think the 20 days should be increased to 30 days. And I'd like to ask Deb, let's say we did this, Deb, and we got all the signatures. How long would you need to get the ballots and get it advertised and, just a kind of a guesstimate? What would you need? 30 days? 60 days?
Absentee ballots are required by law to be available 30 days prior to the election, and it'd take probably a good 2 weeks anyways to get those ready.
So what would you feel comfortable with, the other clerks?
So all of this is outlined in this article, the timelines for all elections, including how far in advance you have to have your absentee ballots and so forth. So it's all in this article.
So it's upcoming.
Yeah, it is going to be in a future section that you're just about to hear about.
Deb, I'm sorry. How much time would you need, Deb?
45 to 60 days.
45 to 60 days.
Mm.
Okay. You feel comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
I think the problem here is if there's an ordinance or a moratorium which is passed that is objected to and subject to reversal, if it's let stand during the recall process or referendum process, like you said, it can do a lot of harm environmentally, or to the project. Gotta speak. Either it can do a lot of harm either environmentally or to project owners. At some point early in the process, I think the ordinance needs to be stopped. You can't go out there 90 days enforcing the ordinance, I mean.
That's what they just talked about. And they said that
Yeah.
it does stop once the signatures are collected after the 20, because it does not go into effect until 30 days after.
Once you get to
Because it's
10%.
Right.
Right. So, well, I mean, you have the two different things between a moratorium and an ordinance. Moratoriums, there's no 30-day grace period. In a regular zoning ordinance, there's a 30-day grace period anyway.
So this would be within the timeframe anyways. So it would be put on pause after the 20 days moratorium. And then you have 54 days, whatever it is, to call a special election. And then you have 45 days after that to roughly put the
You'd
election
have to
together.
get all 350 votes to pause it. Or only 10%.
10% of the last gubernatorial.
10%
Yeah.
of the last election,
Mhm.
but it won't pause at the 20 vote threshold.
No, you need to have all
Yep. Okay.
signatures certified by the town clerk, from my understanding.
Got to give her a little time to do that,
Hey,
Well, I'd
No,
like
but-
to go back to what Dick
Yeah.
mentioned about the 20 days, changing it to 30.
these first.
Well, no,
I think,
have a discussion on.
I would feel very comfortable with 30 days instead of 20 days.
So how does that change the dynamics, Deb, going up the line? Because at 30 days, you're going to need a few days, obviously, to proof the signatures.
Well, keep in mind that it's written now that if it's within 20 days, you could say within 30 days, someone could get that to us within 3 days. If it was bumped to 30, we probably would need to bump everything 10 days.
And also think about if like an ordinance passed and it takes maybe a week or 5 days for a group to gather, they are still within that 20-day mark technically. That's just something to think about. Sure.
So,
mean,
there's a line in here that we might look at changing, right? It's the fourth line, towards the end of the fourth line, it says, and shall within 14 days after said public hearing, no, sorry, I'm going up one more. Within 30 days from the date of the filing of such a petition, should it be within 30 days from the date? Well, again, if we go 30 days, the filing date would be on day 30,
I
right?
think the 10-day window is to allow for us to certify voters. I don't think it won't take nearly that long to do that. But it could take a couple of days, depending on who I have for staff.
So if we change if within 20 days, if we change that to if within 30 days,
Yep,
and then on the second line, change the 25% to 10%.
yep. And then change the 30 days from the date of filing of such petition to maybe 35 days. Just to cover the bases, to make sure that we have time to certify it.
35 days on that one?
Yeah, I mean, if you're making the option to do 30 days after the enactment, then we're not going to be, if it's turned in the last minute, we're not going to be able to turn that right around.
On the dime, right?
Right, so we need a little bit of a window.
If I could, I think it's important though to keep that first number within the same 30-day ordinance delay, because the key word here is if. So you could still submit a referendum, 2 years after an ordinance passes, it just won't be on a moratorium. So if you do
Correct.
35 days, you're essentially going to allow that ordinance to go into effect for 5 days and then stop 5 days afterwards. And so I think there needs to be some
That's a good point.
alignment with it, or else you're going to have it kicked off and then stopped. I think 30 days would be my recommendation for that, to match it up with the ordinance timeframe.
Keep it at 30 days.
Yeah, because if not, you're going to have an ordinance that's going to go into effect for 5 days and then go on a moratorium.
No, that makes sense.
Instead of 20, would 25 be okay?
Yes, that'd be better.
Okay. That gives you like a 5-day buffer. And as opposed to a 10-day buffer.
Yeah, I mean, if they file it on a Friday, we're going to certify it likely on a Monday, and that's, calendar days or weekend days or
Should we add
business days.
should we add verbiage of business days so that weekends aren't technically calculated? Or is that not okay?
I would not do that simply because the charter also says that ordinance will take effect in 30 days, and it didn't mention business days. It's just 30 days.
And we go by calendar year too, so 30 days.
Yeah, I wonder if it should say business days.
Signatures.
Well,
I think
the
that's what
thing
we're just
about,
talking about, right?
well, I think, if you said business days, because a town office is going to be closed on Friday, if you got a Monday holiday, that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then it's Tuesday, it's 5 days. So I kind of like to protect the town and that it would be 30 business days. You see what I mean?
Still counting.
So keep in mind the council meets on Mondays. If they're going to pass an ordinance, it's going to be on a Monday. So you're not going to be bumping up against a weekend after that. So the clock starts ticking the next day on Tuesday. So, I think, again, to the question that Shay raised, once that clock starts ticking, it's 30 days. And so if you start messing with business days, then again, you're going to be bumping up against the petition being due right when the ordinance is supposed to take effect.
And looking at this a little further here, I know it's a bit confusing, but So within 30 days from the date of filing of the petition, the council's calling a public hearing to be held within 30 days. So that's going to be held the public hearing will be held within 14 days. We have plenty of time to certify those petitions between that period of time. So I think we're covered either way. If you do 30 days, 25, 20, 25, 30, I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, it's literally going to take us probably an hour to certify that petition. We don't need a huge cushion in there.
Okay, so I just want to clarify. So someone drops off a petition.
Yeah.
It's within, right now, it's within that 20-day. The town council shall have a public hearing held within 30 days. So you drop it off January 5th. We're just going to go January 5th. Within 30 days after January 5th, they have to have a public meeting. So that technically doesn't need to be changed. Does that make sense? The 30-day, and then after that 30 days, the 14 days, is that after the petition is filed? So if January 5th it was filed, then 14 days afterwards, that's when public hearing? I'm
No later than.
no later. Okay, I got so confused.
The council's calling a public hearing within 30 days of the date of the filing of the petitions, not of the certification. Obviously, they're going to cancel that public hearing if it's not certified. And then within 14 days after the public hearing, we have a town election date established. So it does make sense. It should work just fine. Yeah.
Really, I think the question people had was, we change it 50 days to 20 days.
I think we'd agreed on 30, right?
I think
We
30
agreed
is
on 30?
reasonable.
I think
30
it
is
should be
reasonable.
less than 30
Less than
because again, that's supposed to take effect on that 30th day. So you want the petition submitted prior to the day that the ordinance is supposed to take effect.
Point of 5 days of having an ordinance.
So yes, so 25, you
Overlap.
know, if you want to extend it beyond
25.
20 days, I think 25 days is good.
Okay, go ahead, Andy.
My question is, I'm pretty familiar with the law about the ordinances and you get a 30-day grace period, okay? What I'm not clear about is, what happens if you, do a referendum on a moratorium? Okay, that is not, and there's no 30-day, relief period on that, grace period. Matter of fact, moratoriums can be enacted retroactive.
Is a more,
Mhm.
is a moratorium an ordinance considered?
But,
Is a moratorium considered an ordinance?
well, that's a good question.
It is an ordinance and there's nothing to preclude this same process. Although, you know, a moratorium would take effect immediately. There's nothing that precludes someone then filing the petitions in order to reconsider a moratorium ordinance.
So a moratorium would not cause any damage. In other words, if something gets approved by the town council that has the possibility of causing damage, a moratorium would stop that, right? There's no damage being
It's
caused
the same rules as what we're talking about.
under the same rules that we're talking about.
Okay. That we're clear, moratorium is ordinance.
Richard, you had something?
I just think that this is.
Richard, could you speak a little?
Sorry.
Yep.
And I finished this.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. Sorry.
The problem with the moratorium is there's no grace period. They can be made retroactive. How do we deal with that?
Right, but a moratorium is a hold on something versus an ordinance that puts something into effect that might, puts a process into effect that might cost the town, the citizens of the town money. A moratorium stops that.
Oh, as you pointed out, delays can cause a lot of harm and damage.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so-
yeah.
Yeah, I think Anthony just said moratoriums, it's treated the same.
It's a moratorium's an ordinance, is that correct?
A moratorium is an ordinance, but again, and it does take effect immediately, but there's nothing to preclude this same process from playing out in order to recall the moratorium. The moratorium would simply be in effect until that process played out.
What happens to the retroactive part?
It's still in effect. It's still in effect until this process plays out. There's nothing that precludes someone from starting a petition drive in order to recall a moratorium ordinance.
Okay.
So these are things that are already in place, so we're good, right? What you'd all just clarified.
I think we're comfortable with the 25 days and then just leaving the rest of it as you've discussed.
Dick, was there something else?
We need so many days, you know, if somebody's gonna go out and get signatures and everything, you know. I have a hard time with 20 or 25 days, you know, a month gives you plenty of time to, I know it's only 300 signatures, but let's try to get someone to go out and get 10 signatures, see what that's like. But
We have to compromise.
my opinion. That's
Yep.
all. And
25 is
if
a-
I was gonna do this, if I was gonna, you know, go out and try to get 300 signatures, you know, and I knew I had 30 days, I could probably plan and get help and try to do it, you know? I know 25 days, but it's almost a week. It's a working week. It's extra 5 days.
But it's
That's
better-
my opinion.
It
It's better
gives you
than
the,
20.
it gives you the
Oh, yeah.
An
buffer.
increase.
It gives you the buffer. So say, for instance, an ordinance was supposed to start on a Friday and then the next month, and then the next, like Monday was the new start of a new month. If it started on Friday and that was your 30-day and you pass all the papers in on that 30-day, they're gone. The office is gone. They're done. So now you have Saturday, Sunday, and some of Monday where the ordinance is in effect. But if you have that 5-day buffer grace window, it gives the town office that time to do what they need to do so they can be like, oh, we got to stop everything. Ordinance doesn't go into effect. That makes sense? Because I like your idea of 30 days. I would love to do that. It's not feasible. We need that buffer so that we can stop an ordinance potentially, or someone else can.
Well, I understand, but I'm staying at, and that's just my opinion. Okay,
All right.
sorry, but.
No.
You know, it takes a lot of time to, I know what
I
it
totally
takes to
agree.
go out and do this, and it's,
Yep.
holy smoke, it's off, it's a lot of work. You know?
So let's not be confused. The 25-day window passes. That, again, does not preclude someone from going out and gathering signatures in order to recall an ordinance. The process still remains in place as it does with a moratorium ordinance. It's just that the ordinance then takes effect and then the recall process would play out. So
So
there's-
they could take 3 months.
it could take 3
gather
months, 3
signatures.
years, 30 years. So it doesn't matter. The process is still available to voters if they want to make use of that process. The only magic about this is that this process plays out before the ordinance takes effect, but an ordinance can still take effect and then be recalled at some later date.
Gotcha.
And one more thing for Dick. You're not solely responsible to collect all those signatures. You have a petitioners committee up to 20 people that collectively are going to collect 300 signatures. So I think within 25 days, you could probably get that done. So 20 people working for 25 days, 300 plus signatures. You don't think that's doable? It depends if I agree with what you're fighting for.
Think of it this way, if you have a committee of 20 people and each of them gets 20 different signatures, you have met the threshold. That's just an example.
The time period, like in the case of, program, really, it doesn't matter. Because like Anthony said, you could, 3 years later, you could start a moratorium. So even if it's retroactive, you're not under the gun on any time period.
You're not limited to 25 days to collect signatures. So.
Do we
Uh,
need to vote on the 25?
I don't think we need to. Any public comments, though? Should we take some public comment? You guys are all set? All right. I think the numbers that we looked at, that we've agreed to, we'll go forward with that. All set? Section 804, that was a tough one. Petition for enactment of ordinance. Now, this is kind of like the opposite, right? Instead of taking away an ordinance, we're gonna submit an ordinance. I've had a little experience with that, and it's not that complicated, but it has a procedure to it. Petition procedures applicable to this section shall be the same as those set forth in section 8071, except for all references therein to petitioners shall be for the purpose of this section be deemed to refer to the petitioners committee. A petition signed by not less than 25% of the number of registered voters who voted in the last gubernatorial election may at any time petition for the enactment of any proposed lawful ordinance with the town clerk. The council shall call a public hearing to be held within 30 days from the filing of such petition by the town clerk and shall within 30 days after said public hearing call a special town election for the purpose of submitting to a referendum vote the question of adopting such ordinance unless prior to the call of said town election, such ordinance shall be enacted by the council. Such ordinance shall take effect on the 10th day after the conclusion of such referendum, provided a majority of those voting shall have voted in the affirmative. Any such proposed ordinance shall be examined by the town attorney before submitted to referendum. The town attorney is authorized to correct the form of such proposed ordinance for the purpose of avoiding repetition, illegalities, and unconstitutional provisions, and to assure accuracy in its text and references, and clearness and preciseness in phraseology. But she shall not materially change the meaning in effect. Any ordinance adopted by referendum shall thereafter be amended or repealed only by referendum.
Need to change the language on that to 10%. That's the only change that I could see.
Also, I just need a second to relay a prior experience so that you'll understand what I'm getting at. The attorney seems to have quite a bit of leeway here. And when you submit a bill to the legislature, you put your own wording in, then the legal beagles get a hold of it and they print it out the way they want it. Okay. And we got a grandfather clause for a Special Olympics benefit tournament approved by the legislature. But by the time the legal beagles changed it, they put the word notwithstanding in there. We just wanted an exception to the lottery, okay, to have the tournament on a special date. And they put notwithstanding, which really made IF&W mad because what that meant was we didn't have to go by any of the rules. Okay, so we need to be careful about, you know, how the town attorney changes.
So any such proposed ordinance shall be examined by the town attorney before submitting to referendum. So examine, no changes there. The next one, however, the town attorney is authorized to correct the form of such proposed ordinance for the purpose of avoiding repetition, illegalities, and unconstitutional provisions, and to assure the accuracy in its text and references.
He or she shall not material change its meaning and effect. Okay, so I guess that's all right, because what happened in our case was the attorney.
Mm-hmm. Like a woodpecker. Anybody else?
Named a Woody.
Anybody else have any comments on this section?
Just, we agree to change it to 10%, yes?
Yeah.
Good. If we went 25%, sorry, I think it'd be good to go from the 25% to 10%.
Yeah, I think we've agreed to that.
You know, we'll maintain continuity that way.
And then
All right. Section 805, form of ballot. Again, this is more procedure than anything. The form of the ballot for the proposed ordinance or repeal of such ordinance, order or resolve shall be substantially as follows. Shall the ordinance, order, or resolve entitled blah, blah, blah be adopted? Shall the ordinance, order, or resolve entitled X be repealed? Yes or no? So rather simple language there. Not very confusing. We all set with that?
Yep.
All right. Section 806, withdrawal of petitions. A petition may be withdrawn at any time prior to the 60th day preceding the day scheduled for a vote of the town by filing with the town clerk a request for withdrawal signed by at least 4 members of the petitioner's committee. Upon the filing of such request, the petition shall have no further force or effect, and all proceedings therefore shall be terminated. So I guess it tells us that a committee has to be at least 4 people. The petitioner's committee has to be at least 4 people. Any issues with that?
Makes sense.
Okay. Section 807, recall elections. Any elected town council, school board, or charter commission member may be recalled and removed from office by the qualified voters of Winthrop as hereinafter provided. No recall petition shall be filed against an official within 6 months after such official takes office. If you remember correctly, this was in Article 2, and that we approved it, and that got moved over to Article 8.
I was just going to say the
Reviewing it
same
again.
thing. This is exactly what you previously approved. It's just been moved from Article 2 to the
Yep.
new configured article.
So section 807, we technically don't need to read the entire thing because we've already approved it. Is that correct? So we approved it.
This one is 20 qualified voters may begin the proceedings to recall an elected municipal. But that's 20 qualified voters to sign the petition. Is that correct?
No, no. So that's 20 qualified voters can begin the proceedings to recall. So that means they then have to go out and collect the 10%.
It is 10%,
Yeah, section
8 or 7.3.
So,
Collection of signatures. Yeah,
Does say.
we're back down to 10%.
yeah, that's fine. I had another comment on that 807 though.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep, we're ready.
Okay, in all of my years of service to the town, I have, been given cause to recall a couple of management officials that had something been in place would almost definitely have been recalled. Okay, present company notwithstanding, this is nothing to do with you, Anthony. But there was a school board superintendent that was finally persuaded to leave because there was no mechanism by which to recall him. Okay, and I think that the school board superintendent and the town manager ought to be subject to the same recall as the town councilors and school board members.
Is that legal?
Well,
I have a question about that. I mean, I can understand those provisions, but the town manager is not an elected official, and this deals strictly with elected officials. A recall petition to remove the town manager, for example, would go through town council. It wouldn't go through a referendum, I don't think.
well, could we adjust the charter?
We can do anything we want to, I guess.
I like that.
I mean.
I mean, could we put something in the charter in this, possibly in this section where, you know, the town manager, I'm sorry, where is he? Promise. Speak.
Anthony, and
Well, I was talking to him anyway, but there was definitely a school board superintendent that had to be persuaded to leave rather than just simply fired. So that's what I say.
do we have the legal right
I
to
don't know.
recall the school superintendent?
I'm sure the MSMA would have something to say about that, but I am pretty vehemently against it. I think they work for the town council, they work for the school board, they get
Right.
to hire, they get to fire. I would be very cautious of treating a town manager like a mayor. I don't think they're the same, they're not even close to the same thing, and I think you're opening up the door to a lot of different issues if you can do this, and I think they're gonna get a lot of pitchforks and tar and feather in some cases, and that's something that I don't think we should put a town manager through. That's what the council's for. If you don't like what the town council's doing, recall them, and then they can put somebody on board who then can have a conversation with the town manager and fire them. But that's I think the appropriate way, rather than making them treat them like an elected official without being an elected
I
official.
don't disagree with you, but
Agree with him.
no, I know it would be a huge tumult, okay, but,
I think,
you know, I would never want to recall Becky Foley or Anthony, okay? But I can look back to 1986 and I could see where, having that would have made the town a lot better off.
So I have a little bit of bias here. My father was a school superintendent, right? Now,
Bias.
a
Oh
little
my
bias
God.
there. But with that said, he already deals with the politics of the world and he's not a politician. And Dr. Foley does too. She's not a politician, but she deals with politics. The last thing you need to do is have her deal with voters. You don't want them to win voters. You want them to work for the constituents and the citizens of the town. You don't want to turn an elected or a bureaucrat into a politician. That's not what you want. And that's what you're essentially going to do if you do that.
Well,
Also-
I have to agree to disagree, Matt.
Yeah, I
Also-
think so.
Elected officials are members of the city, the town. I don't believe Anthony is a member of this town, correct? So that's null and void right there.
So school superintendents and town managers are employees.
Exactly.
They cannot be terminated without just cause. So you're talking about a potential legal issue.
Right. And an elected official is someone who is here in our town. And this is an employee. And so they don't have to live here, so they're not elected. So that's kind of null and void to try to put that in there.
I think that it spells out in our charter, excuse me, Dick, that the town manager works for the town council. It's the town council that's in place that hires
and fires.
and fires. I mean, it has nothing to do with the voters, I don't think. And to put that clause into a charter, I think we're painting ourselves in a corner. I think pressure from, if there is a provision to remove somebody, voter pressure to your town councilor would ensure that something would be enacted. And I feel pretty confident that our town council would be aware of it before we, the voters, would be, and want to avoid embarrassment and eliminate the problem.
Oh my God, if we support the town manager and they want
Andy,
to recall.
It's Richard's floor.
Richard.
Well, I'm going to tell you. I think that my opinion is that's wrong. Any elected town council, school board, or charter commission member, I'm lucky I didn't get voted out, may be recalled and removed from the office by qualified voters, Winthrop. Well, I don't care if town manager, the superintendent of school, the head of the dump guy or whatever, the ambulance director, any of that stuff. The town employee. No, they're not elected. But there's nothing here. So if you have a council that in a situation and you have a bad superintendent and the council thinks he's great and the taxpayers don't think he's so good, you got no way to get rid of him if you don't include this in here. And I think it shouldn't be just a town manager. I think it should be all of those top hired officials.
Ambulance director, fire
Dick.
chief.
Absolutely.
Dick,
I
should
would
we
be
have the town
concerned.
elect who works for you and then elect whether or not they don't work for you, for your company? Should the voters
Mm-hmm.
elect who works for your company and then elect also who shouldn't work for your company? These are employees. They're not elected by the town members. They're not, some of them are not even town members themselves. So trying to disbar them from their job it doesn't make sense. This is for elected officials. If you want to go to a mayor system, that's completely different. But this is an elected, paid employee position. We are looking at only recalling elections for town council, board, school board, charter commission, anything that's an elected official. They are not elected officials. Otherwise, you're asking, okay, well, why don't we just do this with all businesses then? We could just elect who we employ and then the town can elect who we don't employ. It's kind of the same concept.
Are you,
I would be
Hey, hang on.
are you done?
Gotta,
For the moment.
let's keep the civil.
I just don't think that, it lets everybody, all department heads off the off the,
Because they're not elected.
yeah, they're not elected. I think it should be any of them. If you got a bad situation and you got a bad council that's gonna head up with, let's say I was head of the cemetery, okay? And I did something bad or something and the townspeople were quite upset with it and they wanted to do it. And the council says, no, we're not gonna do it. I think that the taxpayers, which are the voters, should have a say in it, not just the council.
What they can do is if they're unhappy with the town council for not voting the way that the people want, they can recall the town council members.
Maybe so. I've called them a lot and it hasn't helped me much.
No, not call, do a recall so they can get people off of the town council, vote in new people who would potentially do what the people want, which they should be doing anyway, but
So we don't have any, so you think it's okay that any department heads,
they're paid employees, they're selected paid employees. So like
Mhm.
my job, I would not want the students to be like, I don't like that person, let's elect them off. They didn't hire me.
you would have to have good cause. You can't just say, I don't like the guy or I don't like the lady and I'm going to get rid of you.
You don't need good cause. You just need 300 and some odd people to sign a piece of paper.
Yeah. And also, so again, I'm not elected into my position. I was hired. That's just like with you hiring your employees. You shouldn't have someone who's a third party outside come in and say, I don't like your employee. You should fire them. I don't like you being in charge of your company. Your company should fire you. Like it's kind of along those same lines. It's not,
I don't think so.
but it's not relevant because it's only for elected positions. People in the town who elect other town members to represent them. This is what the recall is.
Yeah, I'm
I would like to move on.
Yeah, well, I'll make this
However,
very quick. I would like to see the recall affect the town manager and the school superintendent, present company notwithstanding. Okay, I've had some dealings with Becky and she's great. Okay, but I don't agree with reaching down to the other town employees. There's a chain of command. Okay, and it starts with Anthony and then he hires those people. And he would constantly be worried about having the public try to oversee. I'm agreeing with you basically, but trying to oversee his choices. That's not
So
right.
why would you treat the town council differently?
No, the town manager's in a much larger,
Town
Supervisor.
manager is an employee of the town council, right?
I know that, but I'm thinking that I would consider treating the school board chair, present company notwithstanding, and the town manager, present company notwithstanding, because of what I've seen in the past separately. Okay.
We've got a couple folks that want to make some public comments.
Yep. I just really quickly wanted to say when it says any elected, should it say any elected and appointed? And or appointed?
Again, appointed officials, which I am, Deb is, the school superintendent is, every town employee, every school employee are employees. You cannot terminate an employee without just cause.
I'm
And
not talking about employees.
uh, appointed officials. So Carrie, are you talking then about committee members versus?
Yes.
Okay, so there is already a provision for that the
Okay.
council can remove committee members. I apologize, I was confused.
Just wanted to make sure that when it said elected town council, school board, charter commission, should it say elected and or appointed?
Yeah, the council can remove any,
Yeah,
for just cause committee member. There's actually some rules about attendance and behavior.
I personally would not do that because then it opens the door for an employee who is an appointed official. I'm an appointed official, then to potentially face recall. There are policies in place that allow the council to remove committee members, typically for non-performance.
So we've got a few comments from the public. Could you identify yourself, please, for the,
My name is Sandy Steele. I'm a resident here in Winthrop. Back when this charter commission started, the very first night, there were some things that were said, and I addressed then my concerns, and my concern is still here, and I've addressed it 2 other times. when we've had these meetings. And what I'm seeing as a taxpayer is that there are folks on the charter that are, the charter was created, this group was created. You want?
Andy, may I interrupt you for a second? This is, if you could save those comments for the end of the meeting. This has nothing to do with the recall. I know where you're coming from. We all know where you're coming from.
But it has to do with the recall. I
don't want this to turn into a personal issue
not
between
personal.
people. Well, you're mentioning members of the,
Not mentioning anybody. I am saying there are members that I know what is going on. And I've addressed it several times. And I feel that every door that's been shut, because we have had many attempts directed at the town manager, and I listen to it every meeting, sitting in meetings, and it is always addressed at the town manager. He doesn't need his job. He needs to have his money taken away. He should be fired. Everywhere. I hear it a lot, and they are members of your committee. So this is my concern as a taxpayer, is that your job here is to fix the charter. And again, everything that these folks have tried has not gone through because it is not legal to do so. And now we are right back up here, and we have the same thing. And because everything didn't go through, now we're going to put in a charter that we can recall someone who is hired as an employee. So again, the job here is to fix the charter, not to target town officials, not to target anybody. I think we saw in the mooring ordinance what that kind of thing does. And I'm calling it out here because I see it. I know things that are going on. And as a taxpayer, every taxpayer that's listening to this needs to know the underlying measures of what's going on here with this charter. And that's all I have to say.
thank you. Next.
Roy Weymouth, citizen of Winthrop. Couple things. I just want to make a couple quick comments. One, we have some members on here that have repeatedly told us how long they've been on public service and should know the process when it comes to the ability, the specifically gunning for the town manager. There's a couple of you on here that are specifically gunning for the town manager. I wrote a letter that addressed it at the beginning of this. And here it's rearing its ugly head right now. This is, it's very obvious. And it was the intent of, I believe it was the intent of a couple people, the entire intentions of you being on this committee. And here it is coming out right here. So that's just.
All right. Thank you, Roy.
question.
Hi, Jim Steele, resident, and I guess a little story time. It's gonna kind of take my minute here, so sure, that's all right. I can use this. It doesn't matter if I get it all out here, so you can time me. It's happened before. A lot of people like to time me. I've been on the council, Bruce, and I think Bruce makes a very valid point here. Before I was on the council, I've said if I didn't like it, join the council. So I wouldn't expect anything different, Andy. So I would think that we really, if you don't like it, and this is not directed at anybody, but I know there was comments, so I'll just kind of reference a comment that you get the choice or a choice to vote for a new council member every year. So that happens. If you don't like it, you can do that. You also have the recall vote that you guys have already put in place. These people are hired. And we went through the process, Andy and Bruce, again, not calling anybody out, but you guys were part of that process when we hired the town manager. And we all selected him. And if he does something that's wrong, I think we're all here to call him out on it. And if he does something that's illegal, we're going to call him out on it. And I think we've done a really good job up to this point. I just don't think that, and it's up to the school board, the superintendent. They don't like her. You put pressure on her all you want, but legally, if they step down on their own, that's fine. And if they say no confidence vote in them, then they can do that as well. There's things in place already, but you have to have just cause to fire somebody. You can't just say, we don't like you, we're going to get a bunch of signatures and just levy that process, even with any of their directors. I mean, we've gone through some different directors because they were not doing the job or they decided to move on and we hired new directors. So it's part of the process. I just really think you guys caution it do as you need to, but I just think you caution it when you're talking about somebody who is hired, because you're going to really fall into a legal thing. And I think some of you guys know that we've been part of that legal process when we dealt with other town managers. But I think you guys are on the right page. I mean, I appreciate Bruce's his candidness. He's been on it. He understands it. He's been part of the process. So I support his take on it. So thanks, guys.
I can't relax. I gotta get right up here. It seemed to me a little that, I don't know, the previous speaker might have been referring to me, and I would need to ask that everyone understands the word means what the word notwithstanding means, which means basically not included. Okay, to keep it simple. So if that was the inference by the previous speaker, he's 100% wrong.
All right. Yes, sir.
I know Sandy and Steels. I'm sorry.
We don't. Yeah, we don't need to address citizens. You address the chair, Richard.
I'm sorry. Well, I think the folks that came up and spoke and said their piece is it seems to be they're worried about the town manager. And I didn't say just the town manager. I said all department heads. And as far as I know a little bit about business, I've been in it 150 years.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm that old. And I got a great great law team behind me. But when you're working for somebody, if I'm driving a dump truck for the town of Winthrop and I do something bad, I'm an employee at will and you can be fired. In the state of Maine, look it up, folks. You're an employee at will and you can be fired for that.
I think
That
the difference
does
here.
not apply to public sector employees. It
And I
does, it
think.
does not.
I didn't know you had a
There's
law
legality involved here that I think we're crossing back and forth. We don't even know if any of this is legal. These folks are hired, they're not elected. The
Wait,
charter
point of
addresses. What was that, Bruce?
I say a point of order. I'd like to make a comment, please.
Yes, sir.
I think that we have a town council, personal feelings aside, their job is to hire a town manager to run the town. We might not like the decisions that the town manager makes with regards to how he handles his employees under his tutelage or care, but the town signs the responsibility of hiring and firing the town manager only with town council. And I think we're going down a wormhole to try and provision in there for a guy that's hired, because the only ones that are really responsible for anything that any of the employees of the municipality do is by the town manager's auspice. They have to follow his orders. They work for him. The town manager in turn works for town council. If town council's got a beef with the town manager, they take it up. How well they do it or not, it's doesn't make any difference. It's the way things are. It's the law. And that's the way that the town is structured. It's just, you don't like it, lump it. You know what I mean? You don't like it, you have a right to vote for a new counselor every 3 years. And if you want to institute a change, I would direct the general public or anybody in attendance here to join the town council. If you think you're going to make a difference and it beefs you that bad, you have a right to run for an elected office, which controls the town. You don't like the provisions as a citizen, you solicit your counselors and you harass them because you want them to know that you're dissatisfied with it. That's the right way to do it. To try and change a charter regardless of how you feel personally about an issue, this is in the best interest of the taxpayers, who we all work for. You know, that's all I have to say.
Mr. Chair, Zachary Steele online has raised his hand wishing to comment.
Zach, the floor is yours.
Appreciate it. So I'll keep this quick. And I apologize for not being there in person. I had some work issues, but I just want to echo some of my thoughts, leaving, the banter out of it here. So, I think Matt makes a great point. And me as a citizen, kind of hearing it, we want our town manager and our, superintendent to manage, right? And if they worry at the beck and call of a large group of people because of a decision they make, I think that can cause a lot of problems in town. And I think that's what Matt's point is. Second, I think, we have to consider that we're in Maine, in a small town, and if we don't have a lot of job applicants for these positions, and adding a provision like this is definitely something a good town manager would see and see as a problem, right? And we want to have our best managers of these facilities, and I just think that adding something in like this could cause some issues in the hiring process. And then third, I agree with what Bruce is saying. We have these methods in place. I don't think we need to cross-thread anything here. If you have a problem with it, you reach out to your counselor, get involved. I think it's good for the community to do so. Those are my thoughts, and I appreciate the comments here, and I think it's good discussion, but let's just think about everything and make sure we're making the right decision here. So thank you guys for your time.
Question, wasn't this 807 already voted on at a previous meeting?
I have a question about 807.
Which one? Which?
807.3, collection of signatures, the recall committee. Who forms the recall committee? The clerk? Or who appoints people to a recall committee?
Isn't that the petitioners?
I don't know.
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, it's just a different name for the petitioners. It's
Okay, all right.
specifically for recall.
Should we add the petitioners recall committee?
No, recall committee's fine. I don't think you need to change. I just needed clarification on what.
Or, well, I think it would clarify it for everybody too.
I got no problem.
Is that,
It's acceptable to me. I don't know. I mean, you're welcome to. It's just, I think it's pretty clear.
could we leave it alone, committee, or should we change it?
Leave it alone.
We'll leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
Okay. Bruce, anything else on?
No,
807?
I was unclear of how the committee for a recall would be formed.
8074, petition certification within 10 days after the circulation period ends. The town clerk shall certify as to whether the petitions have been signed by not less than 10% of the number of votes cast in Winthrop in the last gubernatorial election. If the town clerk cannot certify at least 10% of the signatures, that at least 10% of the signatures were certifiable, the petition shall have no further force and effect. But it would be filed in the clerk's office, and the voters who filed the petitions will be notified. No new petition action for recall of the same person can be initiated until 180 days from the end of the previous filing period. Any notice required to be furnished to the petitioners committee must also be given to the elected officials whose recall is sought by the same means and in the same time frame.
I think it's great the way it is.
Like the rest of 807 as is.
807.5, 807.6, all of 807.
Okay, all of 807. All right, okay, all right. It's already been voted on and approved. So that's section 8.
Need a motion?
I'll make a motion with, I'll make a motion to accept Section 8
Article 8.
or
sorry.
Article 8, I apologize, with the revisions that have been suggested by the committee.
All those in favor? All those against? One opposed? All right. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, no, I think we have one more section, right? The general provisions. And again, that's very few words were changed in that one. Even though it says section 10, it will be renumbered as section 9, I believe, Deb, is that correct? All right. And there's really, section 1001, the repealing clause, all acts and parts of acts of the private and special laws of Maine relating to the town of Winthrop inconsistent with the provisions of this charter are repealed. And the attorney commented on the private section part of that, and I'll read it just for the audience here. I recommend keeping this as there is likely old private and special laws that could be related to Winthrop before it enacted a charter, and this is a standard clause. Section 1002, separability. If any portion of this act shall be held to be invalid, such decision shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions thereof. Section 1003, short title. This charter shall be known and may be cited as the council-manager charter of the town of Winthrop. The clerk shall cause it to be printed and made available to the public, including the town's website. Section 1004, ordinances not inconsistent continue in force. All ordinances of the town of Winthrop in force at the time when this charter takes effect, not inconsistent with the provisions of this charter, shall continue in force until amended. And the next two sentences were struck out, which is the town council shall establish a review committee to study all ordinances of the town, and said committee shall make recommendations to the council for revisions, adoptions, or repeal of the town ordinances. Any discussion on Article soon to be relabeled 9?
Do we have any knowledge of the private laws that would affect us?
Mr. Zato, that's a good question that I actually posed to our attorney as well. He was not aware of any private laws that impact the town of Winthrop, but that is going to be part of his research, as part of his legal review, which I think we're going to discuss here in just a few minutes.
Very good. Thank you.
Further discussion?
Make a motion to accept as written.
All those in favor? All those against? Unanimous?
I had a question, Gil. When we, now that you survived that, when we get this all together and print it out in its final form, will we have a review, see if we made any mistakes over?
Oh, I guess these are the next steps, and it's going to include the attorney at the next meeting, who's going to review some of our legal questions that we had for him.
I mean, that's just only because it's my own fault. There's one or two little things, words that I think I probably missed that I'd like to talk about. We're going to have a review that will give us all a chance to, say, oh geez, we missed that. I don't anticipate any big problems, but
People can't hear you online.
yeah, I know. I've been on the other end of this thing.
You've got a cold, and I know it's difficult, but.
Actually, it's bronchitis.
Oh, Anthony, I guess you've got some next steps for us. I know the February meeting, the attorney's scheduled to be here for a review of our work.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about that very briefly. And then I think Deb had a couple of things that she wanted to discuss with you as well. So our plan is later this week, maybe as soon as tomorrow, we're going to send all of the articles as you've approved them to the town attorney for his review. He will begin his legal review. He will be at the next meeting. I've spoken with Gil about this. He felt comfortable having the attorney attend via Zoom in order to reduce the cost to the town of having him drive here, because that would be an additional cost at his hourly rate. And so that will be an opportunity for him to talk about his legal review and answer any and all questions that the Charter Commission may have. Once, actually, as that legal review is happening, Deb and I will probably be working on the preliminary report because statutorily that preliminary report is required 9 months after the formation of this body. And so that's coming up within another couple of months. And so as we've done all along, every time that like tomorrow, we'll be sending you the updated articles that have been discussed here tonight as approved by you. You will have those in your town email and you can look at them. And if you think that we've misstated anything in those articles regarding what was discussed here tonight, just let us know and we'll take a look at that and correct it if corrections are in order. So before I step aside, does anyone have any questions about that process?
So the February meeting is going to be with Phil, the town attorney,
Yes, that'll be February the 10th.
February 10th. And then our next meeting after this meeting, is it, do we require a meeting? We need to accept the report at some point. Is that
Yes,
correct?
you will want to look at the preliminary report, make any additions, changes, corrections to it that you want. And then at that point, the preliminary report will be published on our website for the public.
Anticipate any timeline on this? Again, you got a report that's due at some point, right?
And you got a former newspaper man writing your report for you, so it'll get done really quickly. I don't. Any other questions? Carrie?
And we're inviting Mr. Levy to the next meeting.
Oh,
Attorney Levy,
yes, if you guys want to hear more from Mr. Levy, we can definitely do that.
I think we'd all like to hear more.
I would suggest maybe you guys agreeing on some sort of time limit for his presentation so that we're not here for like an hour and then we've got, another hour because the attorney's meter will be running during that time.
It's paid by
Colluded, Mr. Levy and our attorney.
Oh, maybe so. We'll look into that. We'll investigate that.
Could I ask the committee members to do a little research on PRCB? Just type that into Google or whatever it is you use for search engine and read a couple articles about it. It is not simple to understand, especially when they start pulling votes away from somebody that got them legally and lawfully from residents. So anyways, if I could ask so that we can come prepared with our questions and we don't drag this out for an hour or two, because there'll be some work to do at that meeting, obviously.
Asking for. Right, here I go again.
Hang on, that,
You're not doing your
Let's
job.
go with
You're
that
supposed to be
first.
keeping me on the mic.
Deb, he had a couple
Hey,
things, right?
Andy, hold up.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm not asking for a vote. I just would like to get a little consensus feel on the email that I sent earlier and that I set on your desk today, your seats today, about section 203.1, which you previously did vote and approve. We had a resident that did pick up on a spot that does need to be addressed. And I'd propose that we add those two sentences to section 203.1 to more fully encompass what the duty of the council is to indeed appoint all municipal boards, committees, and councils and commissions. We had specific boards there. And then to address how those policies actually go into effect for appointments in either an additional amended policy or an ordinance. I feel it's strongly needed to clarify that, and we overlooked it in the previous review of that.
I think this is very well written.
Thank you.
I just have one exception to ask for, and this comes from,
Is it on this? Is it?
yeah, it's right on that.
This? Okay.
Yep. And this comes from experience. I guess I'll have to say, I apologize to a certain member in the audience out there, but it comes to my, but anyway, no, it's just that from time to time over the years, I've heard people say we need more surveyors or engineers or lawyers on a certain board or another. Okay, and I've always believed that that really shouldn't be the case. As people come in and ask for appointments, their qualifications shouldn't include their field of expertise necessarily. So I'd like to see that word qualifications removed. We already have a standard of ethics, just as we do for the town council. So, you know,
Well, I think this might go beyond work qualifications, right? I mean, whether they're a citizen of this town, isn't that a qualification to be on a committee?
So if you look a little closer at that two sentences that I want to add, Andy,
yeah,
that clearly says that that's not to be in the charter. The charter should establish who appoints, but policies and ordinances should address how they get appointed. And that's a topic that you could have for discussion when you're addressing a policy or an ordinance on how that would actually come into play. I don't feel that you should put how appointments are made in a charter. It should just be clearly specified who has the authority to appoint. And it should be the town council as they appoint everybody that's listed here with the exception of other boards, committees, and commissions. And this just more fully encompasses that.
yeah, I agree with all that. It's just that qualifications thing made me a little nervous. It could be misinterpreted.
Well, it says that the qualifications will be determined by procedures that are established in policy or ordinance, not charter. So you could say to not have it in a policy or an ordinance, but it doesn't really belong in a charter, in my opinion.
I'd like to make a motion to add section 203.1 with the revisions prescribed by the town clerk.
I second that.
Seconded. All those in favor? Those against? Unanimous?
Thank you for that, Debbie.
So the,
Actually, we need to thank Stephen McDermott. He picked up, right? He's the one that, yeah, we have to thank Mr. McDermott and Deb.
so I believe it was last week, Gil asked me if we should have a provision in the charter related to how often it should be reviewed, so we don't go another 18 years before reviewing the charter. I thought that was a good idea. I asked our attorney about it. He said, yeah, there's nothing that would preclude that from happening. Shared some examples with Gil of provisions I found in other charters. The range, the timeline for that ranged anywhere from 5 years to 15 years. I think 15 years is maybe a little on the long side. 5 years maybe a little on the short side. And so I think, and I don't want to speak for Deb, but did we agree on 7 years? We thought was sort of a good time frame where, and so it's something worth considering as to whether or not you want a provision in the charter that would allow for regular reviews of the charter so that we don't
Verbalize it as the 7-year itch committee. I don't know.
I don't know if it's maybe.
It was just a happy medium between 5 and 10.
Hey, listen.
I think.
Yeah, go ahead, Gil, is what I sent you earlier. I personally prefer at least 10 years, which gives you the option to review it whenever you feel is necessary. So this covers both bases.
And so to me, the reviews would be directed by the number of state statutes that change, right? If in 2 years from now, we have 7 or 8 statutes that bring PRCV in or some of this stuff, then I think we have to review, a lot of the recall petitions and again, the whole bit. So even though we set a number tonight, it doesn't mean that the town council can't vote to have it done sooner. Is that correct?
Well, if you put the word at least 10 years, then they could do it in much less. But not all charter provisions need to be have a charter commission vote elected. You could do an amendment, which would be done based like an ordinance, and the council could vote on that as well. So if it's just a basic amendment to your charter, minor changes, it's not necessary to elect a charter commission to do that.
Gotcha. And you recommend 10 years? You recommend 10 years?
In the least.
I recommend verbiage that would encompass at least up to 10 years. So you could do it in 5 or 6 or 7.
I think maybe the verbiage is 10 years mandatory and the option to do it anytime the occasion becomes necessary.
Now, who's going to come up with that verbiage?
The newspaper guy.
We'll work on it.
Just did.
Okay, yeah. Discussion on that? At least 10? Not sooner? Good. Favor? All right, good. Let's get it done. All right, hey, approval of minutes, is that next?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the December 9th, 2025 commission meeting.
I second that.
Those in favor? All right. And lastly, we have a public comment section at the end of the meeting. If any member of the public would like to comment on tonight's proceedings, and or future items we might have missed, that you'd like to see put in the charter, now's the time. Hearing and seeing none, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I just want to thank you all for your time. I know it's a lot of work, so Zach Steele here. So just want to thank you. You know, you guys can close out the meeting. So I know it's late. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Zach.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Those in favor? Thank you all very much. Very spirited discussions, but